Hello guys, welcome to the next session of developing e-commerce application from scratch using Angular and Spring Boot. In the last session we discussed on how we can show the product images to the admin. So we have added these images icon in front of every single row, and when we click on the images icon we get this pop-up and we get all the related product images like this. So this is how we have implemented this in the last session itself. So you can just check out that session by clicking over here. In this session we are going to see how we can uh, how we can uh, do the update operation. So we have added this pencil icon over here previously. So now what we want is, whenever I will click on this pencil icon, I just want to update the information related to the product. So it might be updating the discounted price, actual price, or the description, or even the name. So whatever we want we can update, and we can also update the images as well. So this images button and delete button is already done. Now only thing that left back on this grid is this edit button. So without wasting much more time, let's just try to focus on how we can update any specific record for the admin. Now to do this, what we have to do is we have to first of all add one function when we click on this edit button. So let me just take you to the VS Code, and over here let me just go back to the show product details component. Over here we have one show product details component .html file. Over here we have added this button. So we have this edit button. On this edit button, let me just add one click event. So let me just add the click event, and whenever I will click on this edit icon, then I just want to call one method. Let's suppose edit product details like this. Now this edit product details is going to take one parameter, which is a product ID, because I'm going to update all the information with the help of product ID itself. So let me just use element dot product ID. So element is nothing but the entire row. So whatever rows we are able to see on the grid, so for this row number 13 we can say that this is entire element. So from this entire element, or from this entire row, we just want the product ID. So that's the reason I'm just using element dot product ID. Now this function we haven't created, so we have to create this function in a TS file. So let me just copy the name of this function. Let me just come to the TS file, and over here at the end let me just add one more function. So let me just add let me just copy the name. So copy, and let me paste it over here. And this function is again going to take one parameter, obviously, that we have defined into a HTML, which is a product ID. So now whatever product ID we are going to receive, let me first of all do console.log just to make sure whether I am able to get the correct product ID or not, and let me just save it. Now let me just wait till the compilation is done, and now we can just come back to the Google Chrome, and let me open the console. Now over here, let's suppose if I click on the 13, so I'm able to see the 13 on the console. Similarly for 15, I'm able to see 15 on the console. So whatever ID we are clicking the button on, we are going to get the exact ID on the console. So that means our function is working as expected. The next thing that we have to do is we have to configure a path, or we can say that we have to configure a route. Now over here what I'm going to do is, as soon as I click on the edit button, I'm just going to redirect to this add a new product component. So why add new product component? Because in add new product component, previously we have developed this form where we are able to see all the name, description, prices, and alongside we are able to see the images as well on the right hand side. So this is the ready-made component, and we can just reuse the same component to the update operation as well. So that's the reason whenever I will click on the edit button, I'm just going to redirect to this add new product component like to this particular form. So let's see how we can do that. So only information that I'm just going to send is, I'm just going to send the product ID from this from this path. So we can just take a look right over here. So let me just come back to the edit product details, and over here let me just remove this console.log, and first of all we have to just inject a router module. So let me first of all inject a router module. So inside a constructor, let me just use private router, which comes from the router, so which is of type router, and router basically comes from @angular/router. So we have to use this particular import. Now inside my edit product details, let me just use this dot router dot navigate, and now over here we have to just give two different parameters. So very first parameter that we have to give is we have to give a path, and after that we have to give a like path parameters. So path parameters will be something like product ID, which we send through the URL. So these kind of IDs, we say it as a path parameters. So we have to give the two different arguments. So first of all we have to just give these brackets, square brackets. Inside this very first parameter is nothing but our path. So our path of add new product component. So let me just go to the routing module TS file, and over here let me just copy this path /add new product, and let me just paste it over here. After this let me just give a comma, and then we have to give name of the path parameter. So my path parameter name is product ID, and value is product ID itself. So whatever we are receiving in like in this method, so we are just going to send it as it is like this. And now let me just save this code. Now let me just come back to the Google Chrome once the compilation is done. So my compilation is done. So let me just come back to the Google Chrome. Let me again go back to the show product details. Now over here, if you see, like when I click on the add new product from this tab, just observe this URL. Like we are able to see localhost :4200/add a new product. Now let me just come back to the show product details, and now let me just click on this edit button. And now if you see, and if you just observe the URL, so URL is something like localhost :4200/add a new product. Product ID is equals to 17. So this is the parameter that we have added. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to fetch the details of this particular product from the backend. So we have to just fetch this product details like for the ID 17, and once we receive the product details, we have to bind those product details into this form so that user can see the pre-populated values and user can update the values. So this is the thing that we have to do. Now over here there is one twist. We cannot directly fetch the values and show it to the component, because there might be some latency or delay that may require to fetch the product details from the backend. So over here the problem is, so let's suppose when I click on this edit button, so whenever I will click on this edit button, it will take the product ID, let's suppose product ID 17, it will just go to the backend and then it will fetch the values, and then that values needs to be pre-populated into our form. So over here, to fetch the values from the backend, we require some time, and what we want is, we want that our this form should not be loaded unless and until our backend operation is done, because otherwise, like if the form gets loaded before backend operation is done, then that might create some problem. So over here, just to make sure that our form is not loaded till the backend operation is done, what we have to do is we have to just put something like resolvers. So resolvers will basically make sure that the backend operation is done, or backend operation is first of all resolved, and then only our component is getting loaded. So it is basically it will basically make sure that backend operation is done first, and then HTML component is loaded on the UI. So it will just keep application very consistent. So we have to create that resolver as well. So again, creating resolver is not a big issue. So we can just I'll just show you quickly how we can create these resolver and all. So over here, what we have to do is we have to just create one service. So resolver is nothing but a service that we have to just create. So let me just stop the current execution and let me just use npm run ng-gs, and let me just give the name as product resolver, like this, product resolve service. So now if you see, the two different files are created, which are product resolve service. Now in this product resolve service, what we have to do is we have to write a code for our resolver. So again, so writing the code is basically very easy. There is not an issue. So over here, very first thing that we have to do is we have to just use implements, and there is one interface that we have to implement is, and that interface name is basically called as resolve. That resolve is nothing but a it is an interface, and we have to give one value over here, like what kind of value you want to resolve. So I want to resolve a product type value, so that's the reason I have to give a product in this bracket. Then again over here we are getting the error. So the reason is resolve interface basically contains some method, and that we have to override. So let me just hover on this, and let me just click on quick fix, and let me just implement this interface method. Now over here, if you see, one method is implemented or overridden, and the name of the method is resolve. Over here at the end, if you see the return types, it might return the product or observable of the product or promise of the product. So among these three return type, we have to just skip the observable. So let me just skip the observable only, and let me just remove the product and promise of product, like this. Then the next step that we have to do is we have to just retrieve the path parameter. So like whatever parameter that we are sending from the path, like product id is equals to 17, that value 17 we have to retrieve to the to this particular service, so that we can bring the details from the backend. So over here again, to do this, what we have to just do is we have to just first of all like in this root, first of all, just let me just remove this throw new exception, and over here let me just do one thing. Let me just use root. So this root is nothing but this particular that I am using over here. Then we have to use param map, then we have to use a get, and then we have to give a key. So key is nothing but a product id, product capital ID, like this. And now we have to save this into one variable. So let me just save it as a const id is equals to root dot param map dot get product id, like this. Now the next thing is we have to first of all check whether our id is not null. So we have to check it, like whether our id is null or not null. So let me just use if product id is present, then we have to fetch details from backend. Else if product id is null, then we have to return one null object, or we can say that empty product observable. So we have to just return it. So return empty product observable, like this. And now first of all, let's focus on this else part, like how we can return the empty product observable. So again, that is really very easy. Let me just first of all create one method. Let's suppose get product details, like this, and it is going to return one empty product. So the empty product is basically means that like all the values such as product name. So let me just, or we can just do one thing, like we have previously created it. So let me just copy it and paste it over here. It is basically nothing but a very small code, not a code, it's just basically properties. So if I just go to the add new product, and if I just go to the TS file, so over here if you see, we have just previously declared this product name is equals to empty colons and all. So let me just copy these values and let me just paste it over here. So we have to just return this empty product. like this. And then the next thing that we have to do is we have to just return this from the else part. So let me just use return, and let me just call this function get product details like this. And now over here, if you see, we are getting one error. So the error is basically saying that we cannot return the product details, as over here we are promising that we will return the observable of the product. So we have previously told that we will return the observable of the product, but right now we are just directly returning the product details. So over here what we have to do is we have to first of all create the observable, and then only we can just return the product details. So creating observable is really very easy. There is one function that is called as off. So we have to just use the off function, and inside the off we have to give the object that we want to create observable. So I just want to create observable of my product, empty product, which is returned by this get product details function. So that's the reason I'm just using it in this way. Now again over here we are just getting the issue on the off, so we have to just import it. So let me just click on quick fix, and we have to just use update import from RxJS, and this off basically is from RxJS, so we have to import it from there. Now let me just save this, and again we will not be able to test it right now because nothing has done. Now let's focus on this if part. So in this, like if id is present, then we have to bring the information from the backend. So for this again we have to write one small API from the backend so that we can get the product details by the id. So now let me just jump to the IntelliJ, and over here let me just go to the product controller. Inside the product controller, let me just add one function or method like public product get product details by id, and over here we are going to get one parameter which is a product id, and this is nothing but a path parameter. So we have to give a path as well, and we have to specify the parameter as well. So this will be a get mapping, and again the API name or API path will be the same as function name or method name, like get product details by id, and then we have to give a slash, and then we have to give the curly bracket, and then over here we have to give a name to our path parameter. So my path parameter name is product id itself, so let me just give it like this. Now over here on this variable that we have declared, we have to just use one annotation that is called as a path variable, and then we have to just give the name of the path variable that we want to resolve. So I just want to resolve this product id path variable, so we have to just give it like this. And now let me just save it. Now we are done with the controller, and we have to now go to the service, and we have to add a function as well. So let me just go to the product service, and let me just add similar method inside the product service. So let me just use public product get product details by id. It is again going to take the integer id or product id, whatever you would like. And over here we have to just use product DAO dot find by id, and we have to just pass product id, and then it basically returns the optional, so we have to resolve that optional. So for this we have to just use a get method like this, and whatever it will return, I just want to return as it is to the controller, so that's the reason I'm just adding the return in front of it. Now let me save it. Let me just come back to the controller, and let me just call my service from the controller. So let me just use product service dot get product details by id, and let me pass the product id as a parameter. And again, whatever my service will return, I just want to return all those things as it is to my UI. So that's the reason I am adding return in front of it. Now we are done with this. The only thing that we have left back is we have to disable the security for this particular API. As of now we are just writing the code and we are just doing some test, so that's the reason as of now we have to disable the security. But once we are completely done with the implementation, we will enable the security. So for this, let me just go to the configuration package. Inside this, let me just come to the web security configuration. Over here, if you see on line number 43, we have one array, or you can say that list of all the paths where security is disabled. So previously we disabled it for the delete as well, because we haven't finalized it for the admin right now. So that's the reason that path exists over here. And let me just add one new path, which is a get product details by ID, like this. And make sure you are copying the entire path, not any like not a broken path and all. Just copy the entire path. And now let me save the file, and now we can just restart the application. Meanwhile, what I can just do is I can just come back to my UI. If you want, you can just test out this particular API from the Postman, but I don't think like we require this because it is really very basic code. So I'm just sure like it will work. So that's the reason I'm just not testing it in the Postman. Let me just come back to the VS Code, and over here what we have to do is like whatever API that we have just created, we have to call that API. So over here, first of all, let me just go to the product service. So inside a product service, we have to add one more API. So let me just use public get product details by ID. It is going to take product ID as a parameter like this, and then it is going to return this dot http client dot get. It is going to return a observable of a product. So I'm just going to give that type over here. Inside the brackets, we have to give a path. So my path is nothing but http colon. So let me just copy the path from above. So my path is nothing but http colon localhost slash localhost 9090 slash, and then let me just copy the path name. So let me just copy this get product details by ID, and then we have to append our product ID. So let me just give a plus product ID like this, and now let me just save this code. Now we are done with this service, product service. Let me just close this file. So we have to inject that product service in our resolver. So let me just use private product service, which will be of type product service like this. And if ID is present, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call my this dot product service dot get product details by ID, and I'm just going to pass my product ID over here. So my product ID is nothing but ID like this. And now I'm just going to write return in front of it, because whatever it will return, I just want to return it as it is. Now again over here there is one twist. Like if you are following my sessions from very start, then you must be knowing that we are storing the images in a database, and we are storing the picture bytes or image bytes, you can say that, in a database itself. But from the database perspective, we are storing the image bytes, but on the UI we can't show the image bytes as it is, like we have seen in the previous session. So over here, so image byte needs to be converted into a file or blob, you can say that, and then that conversion needs to be done. So to do that conversion, in the last session itself, we have created one service that is called as a image processing service. So you can just open that image processing service. So we have created this image processing service, and we have created one function that is create images function, which takes the product and which converts the image bytes into a file and blob, and it returns that images. So we have done this into a previous session itself. So what we have to do is we have to just use this create images function into this get product details by id function as well, because whenever we will fetch any product details from the backend with the help of id, then again we will receive its associated images as well. And again we want that images needs to be converted into a file or blob so that we can show it on the UI. So that's conversion needs to be done. So I'm just going to use my image processing service again. So over here it is pretty easy, like we just have to use a pipe. So let me just use dot pipe. Inside the dot pipe we have to use a map function. So we have to just use a map, and let's suppose for the map, like if you are aware about the map basically takes one argument, or maybe you can say that in our case it will take the product, it will just change some of the values. In our case it will change the product images values, and then it will just return it as it is. So so whenever I say that it will change the image values, it nothing but like it will convert it into some different format. So it will just take a p. So p is nothing but some temporary variable, and what we have to do is we have to just inject the image processing service as well. So let me just inject image processing service, which will be of type image processing service. I'm not sure like why I'm not getting suggestion over here like image processing service, or let me just check the name. So yeah, the name is image processing service itself. So let me just see what I'm doing wrong over here. Okay, so I'm not sure like why I'm not able to resolve this. So let me just add import. There should not be an issue. So let me just add import image processing service from dot slash services slash. Okay, so over here as well we don't have the image processing service. Let me just see the path of my image processing service, where it is exactly. So it is basically outside. So let me just use, yes, so we have to just use it like this, and now let me just save it. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to just use this dot image processing service dot create images, and we have to just pass our temporary variable which is p like this. And now let me just save this code. And again on the map we are getting the errors. So let me just see what I'm getting over error over here. So it is basically saying that cannot find a name. So let me just check. Okay, so we have to add a import from the RxJS. Yes, so now we are done with this. Now if ID is present, it will just go to the backend, it will fetch the details from the database, and once details are fetched, it will map it to the like it will just call our image processing service, and it will convert the image bytes into the actual file and blob. So this is what we have done over here. Now our product resolver is done. The only thing that we have to do is we have to just configure this product resolver in our routing module. So app routing module ts file. So we have to just configure this resolver. So let me just show you how we can configure this resolver. So over here let me find out the add new product, and over here at the end what we have to do is after the data we have to just give a comma, and we have to just add resolve like this. And then for this resolve we have to just give a colon, and we have to just give this curly bracket. Inside the curly bracket we have to give a key which is a product. You can just give any key, I'm just going to give a product. And then we have to give the resolver name. So my resolver name is product resolve service, like this. And now let me just save this code. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to just go to the add a new product component. So we have to just go to the TS file. Over here inside the ng on init, we have to write some logic so that we can fetch the product details. So whatever resolver will return me, that product details needs to be fetched, right? So because resolver is a mediator, and we have to, like, from that mediator we have to get our details into the actual add new product component. So again, that is really very easy, because we have to just use one inbuilt method itself. So first of all, what we have to inject is we have to inject private activated root, which is of type activated root, like this. And then inside ng on init, what we have to do is we have to just use this dot activated root dot snapshot dot data, and then we have to just give these square brackets. Inside the single quotes we have to just give a key. So my key is nothing but the key that we have used over here. So my key is product. So let me just copy this key and let me just paste it inside this. So whatever data it will return, I just want to assign that data to this product, like we have used on line number 16. So the reason is, I'll just tell you the reason. This dot product is equals to, yeah. So initially what we were doing is we were just using this product, and this product details is nothing but a empty product details. Like as you can see, product name is equals to empty quotes, and for the description, for the price it is 0, and images also there is an empty array. And this product is basically binded to our form. So if we just go to the HTML, like add new product dot component dot HTML, then over here if you see like product dot product name, so this particular product object or this particular product information is binded to our form. So in this same information or same product, I'm just going to put whatever I will get from my resolver. So the reason is, like, if I'm going to get something from the resolver, I will just bind it to the product, and this product is already binded to my HTML, so it will just work like a charm. Now let me just save all this code. Let me just start my application, and this time I'm expecting that it should work properly, and there is nothing to worry about from the backend side to update the information, because our existing add new product method or API itself, it will work properly, so there should not be an issue. So I'll just tell you quickly like how it will work, but let me just first of all check whether it is working or not. So let me just refresh the application. Let me just click on the edit, and nothing is happening. So again, let me just restart or maybe refresh it. So now nothing is happening. So let me just try to go to the console, and over here what it is saying is, okay, so I'm not sure my application is compiled or not. So yes, it is compiled. Let me just go to the backend and let me just restart my backend. I'm not sure whether it is restarted or not. So let me just give a moment to restart my application. And yes, now everything is restarted and my application is also compiled. Let me now come back to the Google Chrome, and now let me just click on this edit. So for this edit, what it is saying that, okay, so I think what we have done is we have missed a slash over here, because it is giving like 404 for this get product details by ID. So over here we have missed a slash. So let me just come back to the VS Code, and over here let me go to the product service, and then if you see, like, we have missed a slash at the end, so we have to give the slash. And now let me save it, Now let's see whether it works or not. Yes, now whenever I'm clicking on the any like whenever I'm clicking on the pencil button, it is working as expected. Let me just go to the show product details. Now first of all, for this iPhone 15 maybe, so I just gave the random name. So for iPhone 15, let me just see the like images. So we have two different images, and we have this iPhone 15 as a description, 98,000 as a discounted price, and actual price is nothing but a 1 lakh. So similar information, like exact same information, we are expecting that it should be populated on our form. So let me just click on this edit, and if you see, like iPhone 15 and actual price is 1 lakh, discounted price is 98,000, and we are also able to see these two different images. Now let me just do one thing. Let me just change this some of the information, like iPhone 16, and also let me just try to remove the one image. So let me remove one image, and now let me just click on this add product. So again, you can just change the like the title of this button. Like as of now it is saying the add product, but in actual we are updating the product, so you can just change it. There is nothing like nothing to worry about. You can just keep it as it is as well right now, or maybe you can just change it, or maybe we can see how we can change it. So let me just click on this add product, and now everything is done. Let me just go back to the show product details, and now if you see, like we are getting the updated details, like iPhone 16, and the price we haven't updated, so it is as it is itself. If I just click on the images, now we are able to see only one image. So now update operation is working as expected. So now there might be some question ki, we haven't created any, or we haven't changed any API to update the product details. So let me just show you how it basically works itself quickly, so that there should not be any confusion. So previously, like we have created this API that is called as a add a new product. So this add new product basically takes two different arguments. It basically takes the product details, and it basically the other argument that it takes is nothing but a image files. And then inside a service, what we are going to do is we are just going to like what we are doing is we are just doing product dao.save, and like whatever product that we want to save, we are just using that product over here. Now what it basically does is it basically takes the primary key of this object that we are going to send. So in this case, the primary is nothing but a product ID. So product ID is a primary key. So if the primary key is present, like if the ID is present in this particular object, then it basically performs the update operation. If ID is not present, or if ID is not, then it inserts the new entry. So this is how this save basically works. So again I am repeating. So it basically checks whether primary key or product ID is present into this object or not. If it present, then it basically performs the update operation. If it is not present, then it inserts the new entry. In our case right now, whenever we click on the edit button, like we are going to get the product ID as well. So that means our product ID is basically present. So whenever we click on this add product button, so like it goes to the backend, then backend checks whether product ID is present or not. So product ID is yes, it is present, which is 17. So it performs the update operation. If it not present, then it will perform the insert operation. For example, if I just try to put the iPhone 8, and let me just try to put the iPhone 8 like this, and images, I will not upload any images as of now. If you see, like we don't have any product ID in the path as well. So this is particularly fresh entry that we are going to make. So it will just, whenever we will click on this add product button, it will just go to the backend. Inside a backend, it will check whether ID is present or not. So right now in our case, the ID is not present, so it will create a new entry into a database. So let me just see what's happening over here. Okay, so over here add a new product. So for add new product it is giving a 404. I'm not sure like why it is giving a 404. Okay, I think we have to give at least one image, so let me just add one image right now, and now let me just try, and yes, now it is working as expected. So images are mandatory, at least one image needs to be there, so that's the reason it was not working. Now if I just go like iPhone 8 entry is met. So this is how this particular operation works. Now the only thing that we have left back, let's suppose if we just want to show the text on this button like update product whenever we are updating it, so that is the thing that we have only left back. So it is like, it is not a big deal. So what we have to do is we have to just come back to this add new product. So again, if you want, you can just rename this product component as well, add new product component as well, because like now we are using the same component for adding the new product and updating the product details, so you can just rename it. But as of now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create one flag over here. Let's suppose is new product is equals to, and initially I will just keep it as a true like this, and then inside my ng on init, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check this dot product and this dot product id. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check whether my product is not equals to null and my product id is also not equals to null. So over here it is giving me the issue. So let me just check. So yes, product id is not present into this particular object that we have created above. So that's the reason it is giving me the issue. So okay, no issues. What we can just do is we can just add it product id, which is a number, and we can add it over here as well like product id, and initially I'll just keep it as a null. Let's see whether it allows the null or not. Yes, it allows a null. And now what I'm going to do is if the product id, if the product is not null and product id is also not null, then basically it means that it is a update operation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make is new product is equals to false like this, and now let me save this code. And now I'm just going to use this particular flag to decide what text we have to show it on the button. So let me just go to the HTML. So let me just go to the HTML of add new product, and over here at the end we have this particular button. Let me just copy this button and let me just paste it after this like this, and let me just format it as well. Yes, over here let me just give the text as update product, and now we have to use a ng if. So I'm just going to show this particular button ng if is new product flag is true, then only I'm just going to show it, or else I'm just going to show my update product button like this. And now let me just save this code. Let me just compile this, and I think like we have done one mistake, not a mistake, like we have added one property. So we have to just go to the resolver, and over here what we have to do is we have to return the product id as well. So let me just use product id is equals to, and let me just make it as a null like this. And now let me just save this code and let me just restart my application. npm run start, and this time everything should work that as we are expecting. So let me just wait for a couple of seconds till my application gets loaded, and once it's loaded we will just do the final check and then we will wrap it up. Now again over here, if you see, now we are able to see the text as update product. If I just go to the show product details again, and if I just click on any pencil icon, we are able to see the update product. And if I just come back to the add new product, like without any update operation, then yes, we are able to see the text as add product. So this button is working as expected and there is nothing to change instead of the flag. So I hope like you got the idea like how we can update the product details with the help of the same component that we have designed previously. There are few minor issues that still left back. For example, if I just click on the any pencil icon, and now I'm on this page over here, but right now if I just click on this add new product, then it doesn't work, like it doesn't makes the form blank. So to do this we have to just use a clear button as well. So these are the small issues that still left back, but I don't think like we have to focus much on these small issues, because we have a very big project, and first of all we can just give focus on these big issues or maybe implementing the functionality. And once we're done with those implementing the functionality, then we can just look into these minor issues. But because I don't think like these minor issues deserves much time right now. So I hope you got an idea like how we can update the product details and how we can reuse the component and how the backend operation also works. So I tried my best to explain every single thing in a great manner. But if you still have any questions, let me know into a comment section. I will try my best to help you out in that case. And I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you in the next session.